Right, good morning everyone. As you can see, we've got the red Skoda back. If you've watched the channel for a while, you would have seen this car before. This is my friend Sue's car, and I've done various bits to it in the past. I was the last one to do the service on it, which is what we're doing today. Although in the last service video, all I did was the oil and oil filter, whereas today we've got a few more bits to do. I haven't got much time. It looks like it's going to rain, so I'm going to crack on. Right, so over here, we have got our items that we're going to be doing today. So we've got oil filter, that's the invoice. We've got an air filter, I've gone for all Bosch this time. So Bosch oil filter, Bosch air filter, Bosch fuel filter, there you go. And then we've got a cabin filter here as well. So a pretty extensive service today. Like I said, the oil was done almost 2 years ago now, so we're going to be doing the oil. And these bits, I don't know when they were last done, probably about 3 years ago. So we're going to get these things changed out as well and give this Skoda a nice little freshen up. Right, so here we go, got the car jacked up on axle stands, got all my bits and pieces that we need. Right here, I've decided I'm going to start with the filters first, so I'm going to do the air filter, and then the fuel filter, and the pollen filter, and then I'm going to leave the oil till last, just so that I'm not oily and messy and have to like go inside the car. And so I figured I'd get the cleaner jobs done first, and then get the messy stuff done a bit later. So first up, air filter. The air filter box lives on the right hand side of these engines. This is the 1.2, is it TSI or FSI? TSI. And yeah, the airbox just here, it's just, I think it's 6 T20 screws all the way around it. So these little things here, and then that'll lift off, and then it's like a circle, these air filters. They're kind of a strange shape. They're not like a panel, kind of like a round drum they sit in there. So I'll remove these screws and we can get it out. I managed to drop one of the screws down. One of these little magnets though is a lifesaver. It should now lift up. It does. And there you can see the filter is stuck in the housing there. It's pretty clean in there, so I don't think we need to hoover it out at all. So I'm just going to pull this one off. 2 hands. There she is. You can see what orientation it goes. The hole is at the top and the closed end goes on the bottom. It's a nice shiny new one. You can see the difference. There's little tabs on here and it sort of screws in. So you put it in and you screw it clockwise. So you can't really see that, can you? And you just twist it to the right. And that's locked in like so, it won't come off. And then we just reinsert, like so, and put our screws back in. Air filter done. Right, so next we're moving on to the cabin filter. Now, for those of you that may not know what a cabin filter is, essentially it's a filter that filters the outside air so that when the air comes through your blower motors, you don't get a bunch of dust and pollen and anything that's in the air outside. This takes it out so that you get just nice, clean, fresh air through. You can get ones that are like carbon imprinted, which are supposed to do more for taking out fumes and stuff. This is just a standard one. It's located, on this car at least, it'll be somewhere probably similar on most cars. Passenger side footwell. If you come down here, you can see Sue's wrapping the original Savage Garage sticker. You may or may not have this piece of trim that lives under there. If so, just pull it out. It's not clipped in or anything, it just literally pulls out. And then down here you'll see this right here, just right next to the center console, is where the pollen filter lives. There's a clip here and a clip here, and essentially what you do is you slide those into the middle like that, and then this one slides too, so that they're right next to each other in the middle, and then that should allow you to pull this piece off. You can see it's the little clips, they just slide one way to the other. So pull that off, and then you can see the pollen filter, the nice little piece of, what the hell is that? Cardboard in there. And then we just need to pull this out. Oh my goodness. That's gross. And there you can see that's what it does. It stops that stuff from getting blown into your car and going all over the place. This is old, this one. It's probably never been changed. Alright, so having a closer look at this, you can see, I wanted to look at the brand and see what was in there. This is an original VW. Chances are, quite possibly, this is the original one, and this is a 2012 car, I believe. Yeah, 2012. So this has potentially been in there for 8 years, and it kind of does look like it because just the amount of crud that's in there. You see all that? And in between all these, look at that. I would be highly surprised if that has ever been changed, and that's disgusting. So that's the dirty side. That'll be the air coming in from the outside, and then if you turn it over, you can see it's pretty much clean because obviously it filters it out. That's the whole point of it. But yeah, blimey, that's disgusting. And then we've got our nice fresh new one. We can see the colour. I don't know if this original one would have been a carbon one, probably not. All that black is probably literally just dirt. But you can see the difference. Clean, filthy, clean. And it tells you the direction for airflow. So the airflow is going to go in that way. So it's going to come in, and it's going to go in the car that way, I believe. So that the airflow comes that way. I've got one of these little handheld hoovers here, and I'm just going to go up in the case where the filter sits and just suck out any more, probably a few more little bits of debris stuck up in there. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Right, time to insert our new filter. It's literally just a case of wiggling that up in there. That's going to be blowing the air this way, through the vents and stuff, I believe. So I don't think it matters too much. I don't think it's like life or death. Then we just need to reinstall our little cover. Just going to hoover that out as well, actually. Yes, rank. Right, there we go. It's the cover back on. As I said, these clips, they just slide across. So they just slide to the middle to open. And then once you put it back on, just slide them out, and that's now on there, solid. Right, so next up on the agenda is the fuel filter. Right, so down here, underneath the car, as I said, just in front of the rear driver's side wheel, just turn our light on, you can see the fuel filter located right here. And we've got our two inlets on this side, so that one and the one above it. One on this side, and then there's just like a plastic bracket which has a little Phillips screw on it, and then we're just going to undo these connections. You see the blue piece there. I'm going to use a flat blade screwdriver, push on that, and then pull the connector off. Same with the one above it, and then same with the one on the other side. I'm going to do my best to film it, but there's not a lot of room under here, so I'll do what I can. Obviously, drain pan, because there's going to be some fuel still in this. This was driven not long ago, so it's going to be full of fuel. And also, I don't know if you can see them on my head, safety glasses. There's a chance there's going to be some pressure in there. It might squirt a little bit, and you don't want to get that in your eyes. Alright, as I said, I'm just going to use a flat blade. I'm going to push on this blue tab, if I can get my arms in there. Alright, that's the first one off. Hopefully you can see this. Oh, hardly any fuel. Smells glorious though. This one above it has not got a blue tab, but it's got a black tab. That's the same thing. Push it in and wiggle. Oh, that one had a bit more fuel in. And all down my arm. So that's these two released on this side. Hopefully you can see that. There you go. So they're both released. I've just got to do the third and final one before I get high on fumes. Quite a bit of petrol in that one. That's going to be light. As you can see, it's a pretty messy job. My arm is covered in fuel. Definitely wear gloves though, because you don't want to get this all over your hands if you can help it. They saved me a bit. With all those three connections now off, I should be able to just slide this guy out and let it drain the rest of the way. Oh, there we go. She's out. Now I do just want to compare our new filter to our old one. They do look exactly the same, but I just want to double check. This looks like it could have been the original again, because it's a VW part. I imagine it was serviced at VW during the first few years of its life. I assume that's what happened, but it's a good chance it's pretty old. It's probably at least 5 years old. See the VW sign on there, all the paint's sort of coming off. It's not the best looking thing in the world. We look identical on top. Same. Awesome. Let's get this new one fitted. It's nice and easy to put on. The hard bit is getting it off, the easy bit's putting it on, so just pull these little rubber caps off the end, slide it into its bracket, and stick the hoses back on. It's as easy as that. Only thing to remember is this little pin here, where my thumb is, that has got a place on the bracket where it locates, just so it doesn't rotate. It sort of sits in that sort of orientation, like so. On the bracket, there's a little plastic bit on the bracket that goes around this. I'll show you that once I get it in there. I'll push this up in there like so. You can see how that sits in there. You see how that sits in there like that? That's the correct orientation right there. I'm going to reinstate our screw into the bracket. I'm not going to do it up fully yet, I just want a little bit of movement so that when I put these hoses on I can get it into the perfect spot. So the black one goes at the top and they just slide on. You hear it click properly. I think that was the click. And then this blue one, just slide it on, hear it click. There we go. And then last but not least, this side. It's a good idea to just tug on them and just make sure they don't come off on their own. That way you know that they're fully seated, which these ones are. That's good. And then we can just do our screw up. Right, so just to be sure and to check, I'm just going to run the car real quick and just make sure that the fuel filter isn't leaking. The oil's still in the car, obviously we haven't done that yet, so I'm just going to run it a little bit, just for 2 seconds, so we can get some fuel pressure and just make sure that we're not leaking anything, because you really don't want fuel obviously leaking, because that can be dangerous. So let's fire her up. Start straight away, that's good. Let's just double check. Looks pretty good to me. So I was just looking at the old fuel filter, and I don't know if this really means anything. I mean, that's probably when the part was made, but it says the 28th of the 3rd 2011, which would have been, this was made before this was made. So this probably wasn't on the shelf that long before I got put on this car. Looking at the state of this thing, I would suggest that this is probably at least 6 or 7 years old, at least. So it's definitely way past. I don't know why it hasn't been changed before, which is kind of strange, but there you go. So all we have left to do is the oil. All the filters are now done. So we've just got oil, filter, and then she's finished, which is just in time because it looks like it's about to rain. Oil, filter. This oil here is the same that I used last time. I went for Shell Helix 5W30. This is what I used when I did this 2 years ago, and then I've gone with the Bosch oil filter. Right, so drain bolt is that one right there. It's a 19mm. This is the sump pan right here. It's got a little sensor on the bottom, and then the sump plug is just to the side of that. Just going to crack this loose. Got my drain pan here. Just going to stick that over there. Whilst that's draining, I'm going to go up the top and just do the oil filter real quick. Right, so located in the engine bay, the oil filter is really nice and easy to get to. Just to the left of the turbo, it's right here. I've got this special tool that I use, which is like a little grip claw. There's various different oil filter housing tools that you can get. This is just the one that I use. It's a Blue Point, and as you tighten it down, the little claws will grip on, and they just help to untwist it. It shouldn't be too tight anyway, because I was the last one to do this up, and I don't tend to do them too tight. I think I only did it hand tight actually, so it might actually come off by hand if I'm lucky. Maybe not. We'll use the tool. Now before I go ahead and do that, what I did last time was I used a bit of kitchen roll or tissue, or you can use whatever you want, and I stuffed it all underneath where the filter is, just so that when I take this off, if any oil leaks out, it's not going to leak on the alternator, because the alternator is located right underneath it, just down there, and having oil inside that is probably not going to do much good. So I like to just pack it out with a bit of tissue like that, and then I feel happy loosen that up, and if I get any spillages, the tissue will catch it. Alright, so it sits on there like so. As you do the tightening motion, it grips, and then you should be able to, like I said, it's not very tight. So yeah, I've lost a bit of oil already, as you can see, which is exactly why I said to put the tissue there. See that black stuff there? That's the oil seeping out. There we go. Now I want to point out something that last time, if you watched the last video when I did the oil change on this, something very important. You see this O-ring on top? You can see how it's sort of bent up. It's very common for these to stay inside the housing, so they'll stay sitting inside the engine. If this is your first time doing it, you may not notice that the O-ring gets stuck inside the engine, and then when you put your new filter on, you'll have two rubber O-rings in there and it won't sit properly, which is exactly what I did last time. When I took the old one off, my O-ring came off, but whoever had done the service before me, if you go back and watch the video, whoever did the service before me, they had left an O-ring in it. So the whole time, for probably a couple of years, there were two O-rings in there. It's known for that to cause oil starvation, and it can cause some damage to the engine. So just make sure that when you take the filter off, you get the O-ring with it, and it's not sitting in there, because this is what happened last time. If I just sit that on there, the O-ring was inside it like that, and I didn't know that there wasn't supposed to be an O-ring in there, because it was my first time doing it, so I didn't think to take that out. And so there was that O-ring, and then I put the new filter in with another O-ring, and then there was two, and that could have caused problems. So luckily someone left me a comment and told me, and I managed to take it out the next day, and we didn't come across any issues. So definitely recommend checking that if you're doing this job. You can see as well how handy it was having that tissue there. That caught quite a bit of oil, which otherwise would have gone down the bottom. As you can see, quite a lot of oil on that, loads of oil on that. I've got one of these little pipettes, I think they're called. We used to use these at school, and I'm just using it to suck out just the rest of this dirty oil that's sitting in the bottom of this, just because the more of the dirty stuff you get out, the better, I guess. Right, we're all cleaned up. It's about as good as I'm going to get it. New oil filter. Going to add a little bit of oil to the face of this, and then I'm also going to add a little bit of oil just around the outside here, because this is a rubber seal around there, and that's where it actually seals against the engine. So a bit of oil around there, a bit of oil around there. Just going to use some of this old stuff. It'll just help it not to bind up when we're screwing it in. There we go. Just going to do it hand tight. Right, some bolt can go back in now. You can see we're down to a really slow drip. I haven't replaced the washer on this. I will get a new plug for next time. Remind me. Just going to snug her up by hand. That should be good. Give her a little wipe. Right, so last but not least, we need to fill up with oil. Last time I checked, these took 3.7 litres of oil, I think, and this is a 5 litre, so I'm going to go about 3.5. We'll do a check on the dipstick, and then we'll go from there. If it needs a bit more, we'll top it up. Oil cap's stuck. Hopefully you can see that alright. We're sort of halfway up between the minimum and maximum. There's a little like dotted line there, and I believe that is what we're trying to go by. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. Tiny bit more. Right, I think we're there with the oil. I'm just going to put the cap back on. I'm going to go ahead and start the engine and just let it tick over for a minute, turn it off, let the oil settle again, check the level, and if everything checks out right, then we'll be job done. And if I need to top up a little bit, I will do. The car is also pretty much on a level field. My driveway is sloped, but because it's jacked up in the air, the car is sitting essentially level at the moment, so we should get a pretty accurate reading. I'm also just going to check for leaks as well around the oil filter and also underneath that's in the sump plug. It's good up here. Whilst I wait for the oil to drain down, I'm going to be a good Samaritan and just top up the screen wash. It looks a little bit empty, so it's always good to have that topped up. Coolant looks all good. It's just between the minimum and maximum, so that looks fine. Alright, let's have a final check on this dipstick. I'm just going to take it out and wipe it once. And then we'll go for a dip. Back out. Could do with having a little bit more in there. Right, all good. I'm happy with the oil level now. It is bang on perfect on the maximum mark, so I'm happy with that. This thing can now be brought down to the ground because she's finished. Right, well there we have it. That is the Skoda serviced for another year. It was quite an in-depth service, this one. It had the oil filter, fuel filter, air filter and the pollen filter done. There's not really a lot more you can do on a service than that. I'm going to find out when the spark plugs were last done, and they'll probably get done the next time this thing has an oil change, so next year at some point. I believe it had them done not that long ago, so I'll leave it at that. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you like these more how-to style videos. I quite enjoy filming them. They're good fun. It was good to get my hands dirty once again and get some oil on my fingers for once. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next